Sick. Dave, thanks for coming on the podcast, though. I know we just spoke about it, but I have to introduce you. Maybe you can introduce yourself. How about
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
that?
It's yeah, yeah, yeah. My name's Dave Paterson. I am the BMX product manager for We Make Things, which is basically the parent company for a bunch of brands. Wethepeople, eclat, Fuse, Salt, Radio, a lot more. And yeah, so I am currently living in sunny Cologne, Germany, and yeah, I guess I've never really done one of these intros before, so it's a little bit weird. But yeah, that's basically
Yeah, man.
what I do, amongst other things. But yeah,
We've been we've been doing a lot. I feel it's been so sick. I think about this all the time. It's crazy how we have met through this like internet world. Like I feel like you're my pen pal almost.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a COVID pen pal, wasn't it?
Yeah. We're
Like
talking a
when
lot.
we first started working. But yeah,
It's
it's strange because like I speak to you quite a lot, like quite regularly, and I guess it's like yeah, the first time kind of doing something like this, which is but yeah, no, it's all good. Thanks
Nah,
for
man.
wanting
Thanks
to have a
for
chat.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I wanted to have you on. To be honest, when I first started doing this, I was like, man, it'd be so sick to talk to Dave because for
Oh,
me,
that's
I
cool.
I love obviously working in a BMX shop for so long. I love that industry thing, but I also love almost not dispelling myths, but just you get to see behind the curtain a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, and even
Yeah,
when
sure.
we started speaking, um, obviously, I started writing for We the People back in 2020, and right away we started talking about doing stuff, and it's just been really cool to, after so many years working in a bike shop, still be like, oh wow, like that's so crazy to see how things go. So I am very honored to have you on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's the first one of these I've done actually. A few people have yeah, been trying to get me on, but no, I'm hyped to have a bit of a chat with
It's
you and
snatched
yeah,
up
talk about bikes and
for
everything. Yeah.
sure, man. Well, what is how long have you been working at We Make Things, and what do you do?
Yeah. So it's almost 9 years now.
Holy shit.
So I moved to Germany in 2014. Um, yeah, it's a crazy long time when you think about it like that. But yeah, I basically came in uh, as product guy, and I guess the cool thing about the role was they were really cool about it. They kind of let me kind of move into the job and kind of find my place. And yeah, I guess I started kind of like as like product marketing. Um, but I guess in the beginning when I started, my role was kind of split between kind of a product side of things, and Harry taught me a lot and I was learning, and then also the marketing side of things. So I guess when I started, I was a lot more kind of involved with like, team riders, even going on trips, stuff like that. And I guess as the years have gone by and the company's grown and evolved and my role has changed a bit, nowadays I'm basically the product manager. So I'm more focused on yeah, like developing products, developing a product lines, helping market all those products and growing what we do here. I still quite closely connected with all the team riders. I'm basically almost kind of like the middleman in a lot of ways with product projects. A lot of people are involved to make a BMX product come to life. It's never just one person. A lot of people from, the 3D designers creating the 3D models, the graphic designers, the sales team. So I basically help with everybody else coordinate that, and yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean, we make a lot of products, we've got a lot of brands, but it's always rewarding to see the whole process from start to finish. From coming up with a concept for an idea of a product and then seeing it all the way through from the design to the testing, working with a rider to get it nailed down, and then all the way through to kind of helping shops and distribution sell it when it comes out. So that's kind of like a brief summary of what I do and how my job's kind of changed. But yeah, it's been 9 years and it's been fun. It's been a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Far out. You do have a lot of you've got a lot of products to work on, that's for sure. Are you just doing that by yourself? Obviously,
No,
yeah.
yeah. So it's there's a big team here. Like I'm privileged to work with a lot of really talented, cool people here who work on various different parts. So like it depends on the project really,
Mm,
but kind of like the product team, there's like 2 or 3 of us, and then there's just a lot more people involved from like we've got like a whole graphic design team here. We
yeah.
have a bunch of really talented freelancers that we work with for various different things. But yeah, the actual kind of like here in the office, it's me and Harry Schmidt, the
Wow.
CEO here, and then yeah, we have like a whole graphic design team with a lot of really cool product designers who we work with on like a freelance basis, that kind of thing. But it's small, but there's definitely a lot of people have to be involved to make even a simple product become a reality, really. So, and I'm kind of right in the middle of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, let's talk about I guess this is my experience, right? We obviously spoke about, um, well, firstly, I feel like I need to explain how it went from my end with the whole We the
Yeah,
People
sure.
thing, because it was obviously pretty surprising for me uh, to be even looked at being sponsored at my age, at that time period. And it was really cool to then start writing for We the People. And I don't know if I ever explained this to you, but obviously trails is my love and passion with riding BMX. And well, half of it's not even riding, but
Sitting
the
down with a shovel, talking shit.
yeah, that's right. But a big part of what was exciting to me when uh I guess I left the last bike sponsor that I was riding for, and I thought that I would just like, oh, buy an S&M or whatever, like buy something else. And then Scott, who owns BMX International, was like, oh, dude, have you ever thought about like We the People? And I was like, oh man, I do love We the People, but I just had never even thought about it. And then I went home and I was thinking about it more and more, and I was like, We the People are such a sick brand, and it would be really cool to work with that brand to almost be like, here's another brand out there that cares about trail shit, like, not that we'd even talked about um signature parts or anything at that stage. Like, I just thought that you guys made real quality products, and I was like, oh, the patrol frame's actually really sick and pretty close to what I ride. And then once I spoke to you, you were like, offered me a signature frame straight off
Got you
the bat,
excited.
and it was just such a trip out, like, to see that.
Yeah.
So
I
I
mean, it was like, I think We the People is always, I guess in recent years, a lot of our pros have been street riders, but we've got like a rich history in sponsoring dirt jumpers. The brand itself is almost 30 years old now. And during that time, we've made dirt frames, we've made trail frames, we've supported trail riders. And for us, we're a BMX company. We want to offer a product to every kind of rider. And with the patrol line, which I think we first started working on in 2015, we kind of
mm,
wanted to get back to that because we felt, we've learned a lot over the recent years on how to make a real solid line of products, and we wanted to get back into it. But I guess for us, when we develop a product, it's a really fun process for us, but having a rider involved always gives it a vision. We don't want to just make a product and just slap a logo on there. We really want to make something special with some real thought behind it. And having you part of the picture just made sense from our perspective. We wanted a guy that really knew what he was talking about and would be able to help us create something special and unique. And I feel with the new line of products we work with you, we've been able to do that. And yeah, I mean, a big part of my job is working with riders on signature products, and it's not always a simple process. I think we always kind of try and shoot for the moon. We want to do something different. We want to make something like a product that really inspires people and stands out in quite a flooded market. and the ideas you came up with was completely on par with kind of where we wanted to go. So it was yeah, it was honestly a fun project for me. It's probably one of the more fun ones I've been part of, purely because I think one time it just happened at a crazy time. It was during
Yeah.
COVID. It was home office. We thought it was end of the world, and you just had some pretty big ideas, and we're not really ones to sit there and say no. So when you started talking about disc brakes and super long top tubes, and
Yeah.
we were like, it was just the perfect product for us, because we like a challenge here. You know, we have like a good engineering team here. And yeah, it was a lot of learning for me. It was a lot of learning for us, but it was a fun project, you know. And I especially with the Chaos Machine frame, that frame came out pretty much exactly how we wanted from the beginning, which isn't always possible when you're developing a new product, especially something different. And yeah, it was a fun project, and I'm really hyped that you're stoked on it, and the feedback we've had from the public has been great, you know. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, with having you part of Wethepeople, it was just a logical thing for us, you know. Like, you know what you're talking about, you know the scene really well, and we're not really the kind of brand to sit there and assume that we know everything, especially in maybe like a niche of a market where we haven't had as much recent experience.
Yeah.
So sitting there with you for hours, when I
Yeah.
was sitting at home on home office and just listening to your takes on what would work, what people would buy, what you would like to ride, was it was a good experience, and everyone here, we enjoyed it, and it's pretty rad to see it came out a little bit
Yeah.
longer than we would have liked, but I think everyone was in that boat with
Oh,
COVID
for
and
sure.
things. But yeah, it's rad to see all those frames and all those parts out there now.
Yeah, I'm pretty psyched too, man. Like, it's definitely mind blowing. Is with you know, the process, say, like, and your involvement with working with team riders, how does that generally go? I mean, I can speak for my experience, but, you know, has there been, when I spoke to you and I said, I think I don't know what you would think about this, but I'd like a disc brake. You know, you were pretty open. You were very open to the idea of it, and you were kind of just like, oh, let me have a think about it to see if it's possible. Lo and behold, you totally got it done, and I wouldn't have been able to figure out how to make it happen. But is there things like that happen with team riders and products?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on the rider. Some riders, as you know, working in a shop, they don't care. They, not necessarily they don't care, but like they want a solid bike. They want it to look good, and that's good enough for them, which is totally great. The other side of riders, they want something special. They want unique. They want it to be their product, which we as a brand fully respect. You know, we don't want to just slap logos on things. We want to really design and develop and engineer. And it depends. Yeah, some riders really come up to us with an impossible concept, which for us is a challenge, and it's fun, and we kind of have to meet them in the middle. You know, BMX isn't the most accepting market in terms of new trends and new products. You know, we try a lot of things because we feel like it's a better way to do the product, or it can help steer BMX in a positive direction. And sometimes people are stoked on it. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But with your frame and the disc brake, I mean, disc brakes are nothing new. They've been around for 30, 40 years. We've been using them on our radio dirt jump bikes for 10 years. The engineering team at Bomb Track, which is our sister brand, which makes kind of mountain bikes, gravel bikes, road bikes.
Yeah, I like the look of
The
those bikes.
engineers there, yeah, they have a fantastic knowledge of you know, disc brakes and everything involved, which goes into so much more detail than a BMX bike. So they were really kind of instrumental in helping us engineer that onto a freestyle BMX frame, which was actually a little bit more complicated in the beginning. But yeah, I mean, that's always a real fun part of the job, when someone comes up to us with a pretty unique concept, and it's a fun project. I mean, everyone here, we like a challenge. We like doing something new. We don't want to just play it safe. But with this, it was yeah, it was something for us that made sense. I mean, with the size of jumps that you ride, I mean, it's clearly not designed to do Smith nose bars. That thing, you know, that thing is designed to roast. And and yeah, it was a fun engineering project, and it served a purpose, you know. Like
Y-
I think disc brakes make a lot of sense for the riding that you're doing. It's actually a far more reliable braking system than a traditional caliper brake, which is must be like 100 years old at this point, that system.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
so yeah, it's not always simple. It's not always easy. Some riders just want something very kind of like safe, which is great, and other riders have like a vision of something different and unique. And for us, it's an enjoyable challenge to try and make something unique out there. And I
Yeah.
think everyone involved with a product development here kind of shares that vision. You know, we're always ones to try and do something different and new and try and push the boundaries of BMX and just bring out exciting, fun products, because I think BMX needs that more than ever. You know, BMX needs trends, it needs tastes, it needs new things to excite younger riders, because otherwise, how are you gonna keep people stoked and excited, you know?
Yeah, totally. We've actually spoken about that before, like the trends thing. I think it's actually really important for people to be able to jump onto different trends, like that's how things aren't stale. We sort of speak about a lot in the shop here, especially my uh, colleague co-owner Riss. He talks about if everyone liked matte black, then what am I going to run? Because you kind of want to run a matte black bike when everyone can run whatever, oil slick or whatever the trend might be. So, and I think that's kind of fun too, even just being like, oh, 10 years ago I rode this and now my tastes have changed and it evolves a new trend. So I think you're exactly right. And I think it's cool to watch, brands, especially like We the People, yeah, you try stuff, and I think that's
Yeah, we
important.
we
So
do. Sometimes like people are hyped. Sometimes it's, you know, sometimes maybe a little bit too early, or just something that needs a bit more explaining to the consumer. But BMX as an industry now more than ever needs exciting products. It needs
mm,
stuff that inspire people. And I mean, I'm 33 now, but I still try and get into the mindset of when I was, you know, like 15 years old and wanting to go to a BMX shop and opening magazines. And I was always just super excited by products. You know, that's what captivated me and kept me in BMX for so long. And even though, you know, I'm sure I set my bike up quite differently to your average 15-year-old now, and maybe have a different taste, like I think we all here try and look past that and try and keep BMX riders engaged and excited. And
yeah,
we try and do that every day. And I think the industry needs that, you know,
yeah,
you need to captivate the audience. You need to get people excited. You need to get them talking.
for
I mean, the
sure.
amount of comments we had on sticking a disc brake on your frame, whether positive or negative, was insane. Like
Yeah.
it was good. It got people talking,
Yeah,
which
that's
I think
right.
is
Man,
great.
I don't care. Like, if people don't like it, they don't have to buy it. But
Yeah,
if it
totally.
wasn't offered
And
before, there's probably people that are like, oh man, that's sick. I want to get it. So
I think that's what keeps what we do exciting. Like you need talking points in BMX. You need
totally.
argument.
Yeah.
Like we're not here to keep everybody happy. Like
Yeah.
we're here to do our thing and make products and bikes that we really believe in. And I think, yeah, it's good to get people talking. I think getting
For
people
sure.
interested in BMX and having like a viewpoint. And I think like we always try and listen a lot, you know. Like I know I go through every single Instagram comment. It takes up way too much of my time, but it's been invaluable in the past, you know,
Yeah.
just to see a different perspective, just to open your mind up that maybe there's a different way of doing things. And yeah, but yeah, really hyped on how all your stuff came out, like everyone involved, from like the 3D designer and Chris, who did the graphics, your frame. Like a lot of people are involved, and it's pretty humbling to be part of the process, you know. Like I still can't believe that all these years later I'm going to work in the morning and helping make BMX bikes. It's
Yeah.
pretty
That's
surreal still.
that's very cool. Yeah. Well, so say concepts for my frame might have been particularly long. You were saying just with like the delays with like manufacturing and stuff like that. How long is it? Like say I've kind of got two questions.
Sure.
One of it would be like, how long would something take to go, and what's the process like to, how much back and forth is there? And then the other thing would be like, do you have like a plan in mind for forecasting that to hit with like a certain trend or anything like that? Or do you not even think about that? You just want to do stuff that's cool?
No, there's definitely a plan.
Yeah,
There's
cool.
definitely a plan, but
That's sick.
I mean, it really depends on the product, really. I
Yeah,
mean, some products just simply take longer to develop than others. You know,
yeah,
pre-coaster hubs, for an example, um, and other products don't take as long to develop. I mean, we're really big on testing here. That's just a vital part of designing BMX products, because no matter how many times you run something through a lab and do ISO tests and everything, sometimes you literally just need to give a product to a rider for 6 months, maybe one who's actually really bad at bike maintenance and looking after their bike,
yeah,
and seeing how the general consumer would handle something. It depends on the project. Some projects simply take longer. Some are relatively a bit more straightforward,
yeah.
depending on the product. But yeah, there's definitely a plan here, and
That's cool.
every day here we're always developing new products. Like, there's never been a day where we aren't working on something new, whether it's just like a new colorway, or simply a new concept. Like, I think we have kind of an Aladdin's cave in our headquarters, just full of products which just didn't quite get there, whether it was too expensive or it didn't quite look how we wanted or didn't function how we kind of wanted. So yeah, we're constantly developing things, but the plan is to bring them out for sure.
Yeah, sure. It's interesting to think about, like, I think a lot of people probably think that, well, maybe a lot of people just don't really think about a product and development of a product. Like, you hear someone might say like, oh, there's a new frame coming out. Like, for example, we've been sort of talking about the 22-inch like Chaos
Yeah,
Machine,
sure. Yeah,
and a lot of people would be,
cats out of a bag now. A lot of
yeah,
Instagram people are going to be happy to hear that.
yeah. So the 22-inch Chaos Machine is going to be coming out, but it's like one of those things where, with social media and today, it just seems like the second you say something, it's like, when's it coming out? And it has, like, things just need to, where is it? Where is it? I need it in
Yeah,
a
I
month,
wish we could kind of make it come out of smoke, but it really depends on the project. It's kind of a difficult question, because some things, even as simple as a dropout on a frame or a new tubing, needs a lot more testing and development. And sometimes simply making a top tube longer and switching up the color and stickers is a much faster process. But I
Yeah,
think here we're all pretty adamant on making sure we get things right rather than rushing to bring them out. But
yeah,
it depends on the product. I mean, your frame, yeah, simply it took a lot longer because it was just a lot of new features that we'd never done before. Even having the U-brake mounts and the disc brake mounts on the same frame, engineering wise, was something we had to play around with. And getting a disc brake mount to fit a horizontal dropout and work in multiple axle positions, that was something that needed tweaking. And the engineers over at Bomb Track kind of helped us with that a lot, because disc brakes simply aren't really my forte so much. Like, I
yeah,
come from BMX background, and those guys were definitely a big help with that. But it depends on what it is. I mean, your frame has so many kind of cool little features on. Like, it has that one thing people probably don't notice at first, that it can also fit U-brake mounts. I think we
yeah.
did
That's
that
right.
simply
Yeah,
because whilst we're trying to bring disc brakes into freestyle BMX, we understand that not everyone will have access to that. And even adding a down tube with an extruded layer on it allowed us to kind of hide the integrated cable holders on there. So that's actually kind of a cool feature. It's like the best way to explain it is a bit like, when you're a kid and you got Play-Doh and you push it through that mold that does like the star and the moon.
yeah, yeah,
Like, that's how you do an extruded tube. So you basically kind of push it through a mold, and it
yeah.
makes
Okay.
one layer a little
Oh,
bit
like,
thicker than the other.
okay.
Yeah, so that allows us to tap a thread into a tube that normally wouldn't be thick enough to have a thread. And that way you can have kind of cable guides on the down tube,
Yeah, rather than the welded
rather than like a
plate,
welded
the
kind of
little
plate.
plate.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
just looks a lot cleaner. That's
yeah,
like just one little thing we wanted to do. But Yeah, that thing came out great. Like not the kind of frame I would ride myself, but like you know,
You should-
as a product, it looks great, and the feedback we've had from the trail community and kind of people who like a longer frame has been really positive. So yeah, we're developing the 22-inch wheel version right now, which I know a lot of people will be pretty hyped to see.
I know, yeah.
The Exile hubs on a Klar, which we actually developed our own hub for, those are coming out right now, depending on your availability in the world. That was a cool project, because when we decided to make a frame with a disc brake, your first question was, what about the hub? And I think only Profile, I could be wrong,
Yeah,
were
that's
the
right.
only ones who offered an 110, 112 millimeter BMX OOD hub with a disc brake mount. And I think for a lot of people, that just simply wasn't an option. So we had to develop our own hub to fit the frame. And yeah, those hubs are yeah, just give one actually. Shameless plugs. Yeah, so that's the Exile,
But that,
cassette hub. So this is like an earlier version, but yeah, it fits a regular BMX frame, has a 9-tooth and 10-tooth driver, and has a standard 6-bolt disc brake
yeah,
mount basically. And yeah, it's a cool little hub. We kind of used like an alloy driver to save a little bit of weight. We added these kind of custom knurled kind of cones on here, but
yeah, I
it's
like those.
yeah, no, pretty hyped on that. So that's just another thing you have to do. If you change a standard, you have to make sure you're offering all the different parts for it.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's pretty interesting that you guys almost that you guys are willing to do that. I know that I've said that to you in the past, but you know, it was it's one thing for me like, oh, I want a disc brake frame, and then you are like, well, you know, like you got to make the hub, and then you were psyched to make the hub, but then as well as that, I was like, oh, I'd like it to potentially be able to run U brakes because not everyone might have a disc brake straight
Yeah,
away, you know, and the fact that
yeah,
you guys think about that and then you're like, yeah, well, we can do that, you know, like it's impressive to think that obviously it speaks to you guys and you being uh you know, a product developer and seeing how you can make that sort of stuff happen. I think it's pretty impressive, man. Like you should pat yourself on the back. It's definitely
I think a lot of people here need pats on the back, but it's
yeah, like, yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
think as a company and as a brand, that's what we want to do. We want to offer. I mean, that's why we make a lot of products. We simply want to offer everything a BMX rider or a BMX shop could need.
Yeah,
So
for
it's probably
sure.
why we have a very, very big catalog of products. But from a plastic bar end to a free coaster system, I think as much love and passion gets injected into everything we make here.
Yeah, you can tell, man. You can tell. We talk about that a lot, you know, regardless of whether I rode for We the People or not. Like we talk about that stuff in the shop all the time, you know, that you can tell a brand is trying to do the best that it can versus some brands that just do straight up copies of stuff. We've got that Taiwan catalog. It's probably 15 years old now, but you can get a lot of stuff out of there with your name printed on it. So you're doing
I mean,
really,
you can, yeah, you can start a bike brand quite easily these days, but
yeah,
and then you can start a bike company, and I think it's two different things, you know,
yeah, that's true.
like everyone here, especially the founders of the company, have like a real um, passion for creating quality products, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
for sure.
we want to make something, and we really care that the people who buy our stuff are stoked and happy, and we're always listening to customer feedback and just talking to people that already have our products. I mean, what I used to do was go to we actually have our own BMX shop in Cologne called the People's Store. Something not a lot of people know kind of outside of Germany, but we have our own shop, and
As
for
in,
us
we
that's
make
actually
things have its own
yeah,
shop. Oh no,
yeah,
shit.
we have our own BMX shop. The
No, that's
People's
cool.
Store in Cologne. It's one of the biggest BMX shops in Germany. It's been going around for a long time now. I think over 10 years. We just opened up a new store
Wow.
last summer, and I think that's a really important part of us as a brand. You know, to have our own retail outlet where we sell our products, but also everyone else's. And that's like a big learning experience for us. Sometimes I just go into the shop and I sit there, have a coffee, and just listen to like, you know, like kids going through all the grips and seats, which ones they're hyped on, which ones they're not. And I think because we have our own BMX shop, it helps us understand the industry a bit better, what's working, what isn't working, like how we can create a better product that people actually want. You know, it helps us adapt to trends and tastes. And I think BMX shops they're so important. I think a lot of younger riders don't understand that having an actual brick and mortar BMX shop in your city is, as a BMX rider, is a blessing. You know, you've got the knowledge there, you've got all the product available. You know, like I think it's an essential part to building a BMX scene, and that for us is something that's really important.
Yeah, man, that I definitely agree with what you were saying about the BMX stuff. Sorry, I lost you before because didn't pay my Zoom bill.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, technical difficulties.
B tier podcaster over here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But I do think that it's a cool idea the way that you have a shop, because at least you see it as a shop. You know, like I don't want to really like go too much into BMX industry stuff, I guess, because you know we're both obviously within BMX industry, but I think it's pretty cool to actually have a shop, stock other brands, see what other people like to do, like why people are vibing on different brands and things like that. And as well as that, people get to see your products in the flesh. And I think that's a lot cooler than just, say, opening up wethepeoplebmx.com as like an online store, because at least then it's like, you know, you're contributing to a scene. I think you're exactly right with, obviously I'm tooting my own horn with having a BMX shop, but I think that BMX shops are important, you know, because they're kind of a bit of a direct line to the scene. So I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're part of the BMX ecosystem, if you can call it that.
Yeah.
And part of that is supporting other brands and being friends with them, and you know, I think it's great there are other BMX companies out there. You know, like through what I did before I worked here, like I got to know a lot of other brands really, really closely. And I think, yeah, you know, we've got to, we're all part of the same pie. You know, we've all got to support each other, and whilst competition is great and everything, like we do this because we love BMX. You know, we're not some shameless German corporation sitting in our skyscrapers. You know, it's a rider-run, rider-operated company that just loves making bikes and doing cool projects and supporting riders and keeping the thing that inspired us as kids alive. So having a BMX shop is really important for us as a company.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's actually funny that you say that. Like, I think just from a personal perspective, like seeing the way that BMXers can get just pissy at other BMXers for some reason because they're not into particular way of doing things, or you know, like there's, say, like for example, like trail drama that goes on. It's like, man, at the end, like people need to sometimes take a step back and be like, oh, that's right, I just like riding a BMX bike and shit isn't that difficult. I'm just going to make it. Like people just tend to bring on drama and difficulty themselves sometimes, you know, by.
I think as BMX riders, we're passionate people, you know. I think that's part of what keeps BMX so sick, and is that we love the hell out of it. We have, you know, I'm sure everyone loves riding bikes, but BMX riders, we're protective over this thing that we have. And I think it's like a catch-22 sometimes, you know. Sometimes it can maybe come off as a bit bitter, but like I think if BMX riders weren't so protective and we didn't love this thing, we wouldn't have this really core rad sport that we all enjoy so much. So it's a catch-22 thing, you know. But I think we're very protective of this special thing we have, and sometimes that can be to detriment, but often it helps. I think especially now more than ever, other areas of cycling are looking to BMX because it is so core and it is so special and it's so like genuine. And I think that this protective nature we as BMX riders have over it is kind of what makes it so sick. You know, we bleed for this shit, you know, as corny as that sounds. Like, so I think, yeah, we'll always have a bit of drama here and there, but you know, we're here because we love doing it.
Dude,
you know?
Man, I've never thought of it in that perspective before, and that's very true. Because and that's funny that you think that we actually did a t-shirt, a Backbone t-shirt that was a set of like bear trap pedals, and then it just said Backbone bleed for this. Like,
Oh, that's sick. That's sick. I don't think I've seen that one.
just it
That's
was just
cool,
like a
though.
funny thing that
Yeah.
man, that's such a different perspective. I've never really thought about it like that, because it's so true. Like, if we were just fucking super mellow and shit, you know, like not really like worried about one way or the other whether things were cool or not cool, like then you're just apathetic, you know, and you don't really care about anything, and then you're just a bystander. So I guess you are right. Like, BMX is a passionate. So
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah,
Good point.
completely.
But you did mention just before about what you were doing before. You know, we make things and we the people. Like, what were you like? 9 years, a long time, and then I guess how
Yeah.
did you even eventuate to getting into working for we make things?
It's been an interesting tale. I mean, like I grew up in a small town, kind of halfway between London and Brighton. Probably learned how to ride a bike pretty late, actually. Probably I think I'm like 12 years old. Pretty late.
Yep.
Growing up, we didn't have a lot of money, and having a bike just wasn't really an option for me. But
Hmm.
yeah, I ended up learning on my little sister's bike quite late, and then I got a paper round where I had to get up at 5 a.m. every single morning, 7 days a week for like 4 years, which basically incorporated riding a bike every single morning. And I think that's kind of what really got me into it. Um, yeah, like had a friend at school, got a BMX bike, tried it for the first time, fell in love with it. I think even from like a young age, I was just really into just how bikes work, you know, like it just fascinated me. Like I remember like, that show American Chopper on like Discovery Channel, where it's like an American chop shop? Like I remember watching it with my dad as a kid, and I was just hyped on it. You know, dudes with angle grinders, like cutting up metal, and I think I got kind of pretty into it from then. And then yeah, got a job working in a local bike shop on a Friday, and I guess that was my first kind of gateway to the bike industry. You know, all the money I got paid for that literally went into just buying BMX stuff, because I was fortunate enough to get trade price. And as a kid, when you don't have much money, that's a game changer, you know. And
Oh, totally.
that's how I was introduced to all of these brands, was through working in a local bike shop that had a small BMX section. And the owner, Damien, CNN Cycles, yeah, he was kind of cool enough to kind of, you know, teach me how distribution works and that side of things. And then I guess so this is a long time. This is before social media. I basically started a blog. I guess I must have been like 19 years old. And I was posting a lot of bike stuff on Facebook. I think all my friends were fed up of seeing it. This was at like the prime of Facebook. I think you even had to be registered to a university to have it back then. So I was posting a lot of
Oh,
bike stuff.
wow.
People were telling me to get lost. So I started like a WordPress blog, basically.
Crazy.
And I did that, and then it just became more BMX content, essentially. Um, and yeah, so I started doing that. Yeah, it's all good. Sorry, the troops are coming in this
Nah, you're
morning.
right. That's cool.
That's all right. Yeah, so like I basically just started posting more bike stuff, and of course I'm a product dude, so I was just posting pictures of cool bikes I saw on the internet. And then it started to take off. And I think at the time there wasn't like a BMX product website. There was Transworld, there was Dig. And then I just posted new products, you know, as if a brand does it on Instagram these days. There would be a press release, you know, Odyssey would post a picture of a new sprocket, and I would post it on the site. And then it became this place where people would go to see new BMX products. It was
What?
called The Merged. So I
Oh,
did that.
yeah, I remember the merged. Dude, I
Yeah,
would go
people.
on the merged. No way, that was you?
Yeah, that was me. Yeah. It's quite a
No
humbling beginning, really.
shit. When was
Yeah,
that? That must have
that
been like 2007 or something, maybe.
yeah, around then. So I mean, that website originally started off with me and my housemate reviewing cheese or something pretty random like that. But then it quickly became this place, because it was before Instagram, you know, like you had to go to a website to read things.
Yeah, yeah.
I just started posting more product content, like more and more, and then it started growing, and it was as Facebook was kind of expanding. And then And then yeah, I got to know BMX brands because they would email me and be like, hey, like, can you post our products on your website? And that was pretty cool because I got to like, yeah, meet personally brand owners, you know. And then so Kurt Hoberger, who did BMX Union, hit me up and he
Yeah.
was like, hey, let's try and make this like a thing. And we partnered up and I had ads running on the website, and it was a really cool experience. I was in my kind of like late teens, early 20s, running a BMX website, writing with, you know, Brian Castillo at Volume and Grant Smith at BSD, and Wethepeople. That's kind of how we got to meet. Like Harry and Paul and Rich, a colleague at the time, was cool enough to be like, hey, like, let's send you a box of product and you film a video, and yeah, it kind of grew from there, and it was a great time, you know, back in the boom of BMX websites. And I got to meet all the different brands with the money I made from the advertising. I saved up for a long time, and I took my first trip to California. Stayed with a bunch of dudes who I met on a blog, as was
What?
the tradition back then. Yeah,
Yeah,
went my
yeah.
first trip to USA, and I stayed with Ditch Matt in California, and I got to go to meet all the cult guys. I got to meet like, yeah, like to go to Fit and S&M, and I was lucky enough to see that. And then at the same time, I basically got my first full-time job, which was working for a big bicycle shop chain called Evans Cycles,
Oh yeah, I've heard of
which
that.
it's still around, but it was a lot bigger back then. And I started off just doing data entry. A guy called Stuart Reed, who was kind of like one of the older BMX riders on the scene, like squeezed me in a job there. I'm sure I annoyed the hell out of him, but they got me in there just uploading products onto a website. And I was there for a good few years and learned a lot about the retail side of the bike industry. And we sold quite a lot of BMX stuff at Evans when I eventually became the BMX buyer for
Wow.
Evans. So like I was, you know, talking to all the distributions and ordering product and getting to know all the brands. And I did that for a few years, and then that kind of ran its course. And then I think it was my second trip to California. I went to Interbike. Those who don't know, Interbike used to be the biggest bike trade show. And for a BMX nerd like me, it was just heaven. You know, I was walking around, looking at all the new products, taking pictures, uploading it onto the merge and stuff.
So you're still doing the
Um,
merge at this point?
yeah. I was kind of doing the two. The merge was just like a side hobby. It wasn't really like a main source of income. But you know, when you're young and you're
Oh yeah.
super into BMX, it was great. So I was in Las Vegas, and if my memory serves me correctly, Primo had this pretty crazy party. This is when BMX companies really spent money on like product shows and stuff, you know. And they had a party on the roof of the MGM Grand Casino.
Wow.
And I went there and it was surreal. You know, I was like watching Sean McIntosh rap and drinking a beer with Mike Aitken. It was just surreal, like blew my mind. And I remember not feeling too great the next day. Um, and I remember I was searching for the Wethepeople booth the whole time, but it wasn't in like the BMX area. Back then, all the BMX brands would be in a similar part. And the Wethepeople booth, a place where I really wanted to go and see the new bikes and the eclat products, was in a totally different part of the convention center.
Yeah, right.
And it was like a labyrinth. I'd just get lost. But the next day, I obviously wasn't feeling too good. Walked past the Wethepeople booth, found it, and then we had this kind of table and chairs laid out for meetings with customers. Because Harry, like, he goes hard with everything. You know, when we do a convention or we do like a trade show, he's like, no, we're going to do like a proper booth. You know, we have graphic designers design the whole thing. So they had this pretty incredible booth compared to other BMX brands, and it had like a whole table and chairs. Wasn't feeling too good, had a little sit down, tried to collect myself, and I ended up talking to Harry and to Paul Robinson, who's our marketing manager here, and we just got talking, and yeah, we just got chatting a lot. And I'd spoken to Paul a lot through email, and Wethepeople for me as a kid, it was always my favorite brand. It just was.
Oh
You know, I
wow.
was captivated by it from a young age. But yeah, talking to them was great, and I got to know them, and then essentially I flew back home to England, not kind of knowing what I'm going to do future work wise, being a little bit lost. And then I saw a job application on their website for product designer. And I saw it and I was like, oh, I'd love to be part, but I never went to university. I don't have a degree. I'm not fully trained in product design, but I want to be part of it. So I literally just sent Paul an email, and then 2 minutes later, I got a reply being like, hey, let's have a chat. And I had a few Skype calls with Richard, who was the product manager at the time. And then, yeah, flew over to Germany, to Cologne, on a very cold February morning. Waited over 2 days, had 2 days of interviews. Me and Harry, I think, just talked for hours just about, you know, BMX hubs and just fully nerding out. And yeah, they said, when can you move here? And I
Holy
was kind of
fuck.
blown away because I didn't think that was at all a possibility. I was just happy to be there, to be honest. And it was a pretty big decision for me to move across the country. You know,
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of things, Germany is not that far away from England. But back then, when you're in your early 20s and you no expectation of moving to a different country, it was pretty wild. So, and I thought I'd be there a year and that I wouldn't be able to do it. And they've been really fortunate here of working with me and teaching me along the way and exposing me to a lot of different parts of the business and working with me to find my strengths and teaching me things. And it's been a fantastic experience, basically. So yeah, that's kind of how I got here. It basically starting a blog, writing about cheese and being a little bit hungover and sleeping on the Wethepeople booth and talking about Free Coaster hubs. So yeah, and like 9 years later, I'm here. So
Holy shit, dude. That's a story. It's so one, it's so crazy because you know, the shop here has been open since 2005, right? And I came into the shop to essentially, I was bugging the shit out of Riss, who opened the shop, and just, you know, hanging around like an 18-year-old kid. But I was also studying web design and multimedia, but I couldn't really
cool.
I couldn't really afford to live. I'd moved to Canberra essentially for BMX, and I was like broke as. And anyway, I was like, I couldn't really afford to study 5 days a week, which is what I was doing. Like, it was a full-time thing. And I kind of just said to Riss, like, I can make websites. Like, do you need a website? And it was just serendipitous, you know what I mean? Like, he'd had someone else that was doing it. They were kind of lagging because, you know, whatever. And then I came on. And my whole point to this is, it's like, you had this thing where you were just like frothing on BMX products, and now you're fucking product, you know, like one of the product, what was it, head product designer or whatever, like at
product manager.
product manager.
Yeah, yeah. So I work with designers and
Yeah,
do
that's
something
right.
on my
Yeah,
side,
so
and I kind of coordinate with all our graphic designers and everything. But it's product manager, so it's
product
more
manager. Yeah.
managing
So
the
you're managing all this stuff because you were just fortunate enough, not fortunate enough, but you were making, you'd taken what was just a passion and you turned it into this thing called the Merged, which, by the way, like, as a side note, like, I used to look at all the time because working in a shop, you know, working in a shop, you're always wondering what the new thing around the corner is. And that was the website that I'd always go to and be like, it's always got more info than some of the freaking brands, you know?
I ended up, I mean, most brands were really stoked on it and it was cool. I made a lot of friendships, which I'm still kind of happy to have to this day, you know, like, but there were a few that might have got me in trouble. I mean, I can understand it now as, you know, someone who works heavily with product marketing and keeping the release of products under wraps. This kid from England with long hair who always wears tie-dye, like, it's just leaking our products onto the internet without telling us. I think there were a few stern conversations with a few brands, which is
Yeah,
pretty
right.
funny going back to it. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty fortunate here. Like, I think as a company, they really believe in having riders work here and people with motivation and energy and enthusiasm for BMX. And I think Harry Baha and all the team here really, they want people part of the company and the brands who are hyped on BMX. I'm very fortunate in that regard to be doing it. But it's cool. And I think as a BMX company, you need BMX riders. And I'm constantly, you know, talking to the younger generation, getting a lot of their feedback on products, because I think that's important. You know, like we're not going to have the be all and end all saying what's actually cool in BMX forever. You know, there's going to be a time, maybe it's already happened, where I'm completely out of touch. So I think we always try and talk to the team a lot, like all our team riders, really getting their opinions on various different things, and local riders.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pretty important part of making BMX products, honestly.
Yeah,
It's like
totally,
listening
man.
to as many people as possible.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, even with the, like, say the 22-inch Chaos Machine that you're working on, that's something that I've only ridden a 22-inch bike. I rode my friends at the trails a few years ago, and if I'm completely honest, I was like, holy shit, I could see how I could just ditch my 20-inch bike for this thing, which is kind of funny because, yeah, like I was like, oh, maybe I'd keep that to myself, because they were brand new. My friend is like 6'8". He had his, and
Totally makes sense.
and but riding it, I was like, wow, this is sick. But the cool thing that I have is the ability to, you know, ask him what he thinks about it, because he's way more in touch with it than I am. You know, I love it, but and I think they're a great idea, but it's like what you're saying with talking to team riders or other people that have their finger more in that pie, you know, like you have to be able to take your ego aside, you know, and not
completely.
not think that you know what is best, but more just try to help to move the needle where it needs to go, you know. So
yeah, I think it's give and take. Like we really try and do that, but sometimes, you know, I feel like as a company, as a brand, sometimes we have to move the needle and see if people follow, you know. Like I think sometimes BMX is just an industry very resistant to change, and I totally understand why. You know, the average rider and shop doesn't have an insane amount of disposable income, so coming up with a new handlebar and stem standard like 25.4, which makes total sense.
yeah,
It's slow, but for riders to adopt, because you know they want a new bar, they've got to buy a new stem, and that's a kind of a hard sell. But when the system works so much better and so effectively, I think since all of our pros switched over to oversize, no one breaks bars.
yeah,
Like
right.
flat. It just doesn't happen anymore. And
Wow.
but there's definitely more companies going on it, and then I think it just makes total sense. It's just sometimes slow in BMX, but I think we make so many products that it's sometimes hard to explain every little detail, you know. Like it's sometimes hard like to get across everything. So even doing this kind of stuff with you, talking about frame and the special parts of it is something which I kind of enjoy doing. And I
Yeah,
wish we could get everything across about a product in an Instagram post, but sadly it's just not. It's
yeah,
not working.
totally. Yeah. What
But
so what breaks
yeah.
on a set of handlebars? Because I run the 25.4 too, because I thought it made sense, like more grip area and things like that. But is it just, do they break
I
it?
mean, but it's more like that it holds the bar and the bar doesn't slip more than anything.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
But if a two-piece handlebar is going to break, normally it will be at the knurling. I mean, we don't really have many 22.2 bars break, but that is technically a weak point of a bar, especially if the stem isn't tightened properly or it's over tightened, which can happen a lot with younger riders, you know, kind of don't really, or older riders that don't really know how to work on their bike. But it just makes a lot more sense for a secure hold on the bar.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like we're having riders breaking bars every week, but if a bar would break, it would be there. And since we moved to 25.4 oversize, it just doesn't happen. Don't think it's happened once.
Yeah, yeah. Have you
So
ever seen anything that you guys have tried where you're like, you know, you were talking about sometimes you have to move the needle and the industry kind of has to catch up. Has there been stuff where you're like, well, that's just not going to ever take off? Or
Yeah, we've got a there's been so many projects, so many products we've worked on that just it just hasn't come to fruition, whether it just didn't end up looking kind of how we wanted, or we just thought it's not right. We've experimented with all sorts of things. One thing we did a few years ago, which was kind of cool, was play with the OLD, or the rear spacing of a frame. So a typical BMX frame uses a 110 or 112, depending on the brand, millimeter hub spacing. So from here to here, which has been the standard for a very, very long time. But obviously with 2.4 and even 2.5 tires, the rear triangle is getting really, really tight.
Oh yeah,
And
it's
so
almost
we
come back
actually,
on itself.
yeah, so I mean, if you look at mountain biking now, they use 148, 142, like way
Sure.
wider spacing, and are having pretty similarly sized tires sometimes. So we actually did some samples of a Battleship frame and a Cortex Free Coaster with 120 millimeter spacing. So it was just a little bit more, and it helped a lot more with like tire clearance mainly.
Mm.
But then if you do that, you also have to have a longer crank spindle, because otherwise the sprocket will be too close to the frame. We ended up having to change so many things. It was a cool concept, and I think as a company we're always working on concepts. Like, we're always working on new products, and just to test the waters, see what's possible. And I think as a brand, that's kind of a foundation of what we do. We're always trying to see what we can do to make BMX bikes better. And the end goal is actually, it trickles down into complete bikes. If you look at complete bikes now, like compared to 20 years ago, it's insane. And I
Oh
think
man.
right now, with the amount of younger kids getting better earlier, like having even more dialed, smaller complete bikes is essential. So that we do that Prodigy line now, Wethepeople,
Yeah.
which is an aftermarket 18-inch frame, fork, and bar, and we developed that together with a few younger riders, especially Suzuki Hayata, probably my favorite BMX rider in the world right now from
Yeah.
Japan. Just is incredible. Awesome kid, awesome family. And there's a need for better, stronger bikes for a younger audience. But we didn't just want to make a Battleship frame and shrink it. We developed our own hydroform tubing, which was stronger and lighter. We used slimmer tube. We engineered that frame to be proportionate to what the rider needs, and the same with a fork and the bar. So it's a very, very lightweight but incredibly strong frame, fork, and bar, designed for the younger, like 18-inch riders who need that gateway between a 16 and a 20-inch bike.
Yeah. It's crazy at the moment, actually. We've literally got one to build up for a young kid right now.
Oh
And
wow, that's cool.
it's like, you're exactly right, man. Like, things have changed so much that I would have never have thought from a bike shop perspective that the bikes that we sell the most of are like 14-inch, 16-inch, 18-inch bikes. And it's like, but companies, except, with exceptions like yourselves, companies aren't really thinking that that's necessary yet, like.
Yeah, I mean, when we develop like these smaller bikes, like we're looking at everything. So like a 16-inch bike does not need a 2.4 tire. That's completely over the top, heavy, sluggish.
Yeah.
We have the new Thrill Seeker line on Wethepeople, which is our new kind of entry tier Wethepeople bike. And although it's a lower cost bike, we wanted to make sure those bikes, they look good, they ride good. It has a 2.25 tire on it, because when you're a younger rider, you do not need a 2.4 tire on there. Like
Yeah.
it makes the bike super heavy and cumbersome. Tire clearance can be an issue. And we have like a whole new line of Wethepeople bikes. They come in like a small, medium, large, extra large. The small one has like a 19-inch top tube, and they're proportionate in geometry. One thing we did a few years ago, which was kind of really important to us, was the geometry of our complete bikes. So even on the Nova or the Thrill Seeker, we gave them a 12.75 chainstay, a super short chainstay, which hadn't really been done on complete bikes before, because it's just engineering. It's a lot of work. You've got to do the tooling to bend the chainstays and to have enough tire clearance. And we did that because we wanted kids to ride on a bike which actually felt good for them, and it was shorter, it was more agile, and it worked better. So I'd say a lot of the work here really goes into making complete bikes, especially the entry level ones, because it's just so important. If a kid has a bike that rides like shit, they're just going to quit BMX, and then you've lost someone who could be in it for a long time and help contribute to making it better. So a lot of work here goes into just making really dialed complete bikes, and we're always constantly seeing what we can do to make that better, whether it's materials or just the aesthetics. A lot of the conversations we have with the design team about how we make a bike look good, should we use a Spanish bottom bracket on a 16-inch seat complete bike, because that kid does not need the longevity of a mid-bottom bracket, and it will help ultimately reduce the weight. A lot of thought goes into that, and especially with Salt, like our kind of OEM component brand. We've developed we were one of the first brands to really put money into developing good OEM or like a lower cost products on our bikes. I think when Harry first went to Taiwan in the 90s to design his own bikes and actually do it himself, we as a company weren't very happy with the things you could just get in a catalog. That lever is too long for a kid's hand, that grip is too short. And we've spent a lot of time developing whole lines of like brake levers and brakes, and like a stem. We do like a 45 mil and a 40 mil stem, because on an 18-inch bike, a 50 mil stem is maybe too long, and then on a 40 mil is too short. So we designed a 45 mil reach stem. So like a lot of the design work and product work goes into actually just making sure kids have dial bikes. And it's awesome when we hear from our team riders that their first bike was a Wethepeople. Like it's awesome. We hear that quite a lot, and that's always good. But I think, going into a bike shop and seeing how a kid fits on a bike, that's something I know Harry does a lot, and just thinking, hey, can we do that better? Like that's kind of an important thing for us, because if complete bikes aren't dialed, then you're going to lose a whole generation of complete bike of younger riders, basically.
Totally, yeah.
Bikes are dialed now. It's awesome. Like everyone makes good stuff.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of that stuff how would you feel that sort of stuff gets out? I'm really excited, the fact that we talk about this stuff right now, and we always talk about tech stuff when we're on the phone, to each other. It's something that I nerd out on that. I love hearing I love hearing all of the intricacies of it. And that's something that I think I notice it when I'm selling a bike to someone for their child, or if their child comes in, I can explain to them the difference between a mid and a Spanish bottom bracket on like the Riot or whatever. But that's something that I guess we're doing it right now in the podcast. But how can you see people getting more, I guess, educated, and how do you see like the future of BMX going for like young riders and things like that, in terms of like bike parts and whatnot? Because I guess what I'm getting at is, there's a lot of people from a shop perspective that just wouldn't think that those things make a difference until you ride it, and then But when
it's hard, man.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, especially parents. You can't expect a parent, unless they're like typical bike parent, to really understand why they should be paying X amount more for this brand rather than this brand. And it's a hard thing. I mean, that's why BMX shops and bike shops are fantastic, because they're a source of education for parents and riders. And that's why I think we should be supporting bike shops and going in there and, like doing what we can do to support them, because if they're gone, then you're losing this whole source of education for the new riders and for parents. I mean, we as a brand, we try and put a lot of effort into product marketing across all our brands to educate people. But I mean, I think the younger riders, social media is obviously like a huge thing. That's probably the first port of call to kind of learn. We obviously put a lot of effort into that and developing our own stuff. I probably need to go in front of a camera and talk about some new bikes soon. But yeah, I think BMX shops are really important. But yeah, it's right. I mean, I remember when I was a kid or a young person growing up in BMX, a lot of what I learned about bikes were from my friends.
Yeah.
So like, I think just sharing the information, and like what I was saying earlier, like BMX needs talking points. It needs things that excite people, whether you like disc brakes or you don't like disc brakes, or whether chainstays are too short or they're too long. I think as kind of companies and brands, we need to we need to stir the pot a little bit and get people talking about it, because I think it's important. Like if someone's stoked on BMX enough to write a comment, whether positive or negative, it means they're interested and they're engaged and they care. And I think that's what you need. You need people that care about BMX, whether they're more of a product person or they're kind of more into like the lifestyle and the look of it and stuff. I think you've just got to keep people engaged, really. Like make cool stuff, you know, film video parts, just make cool stuff, basically.
Yeah, man, that's so true. Well, speaking of making cool stuff, what's on the horizon? Can you talk about any of the stuff that's
I guess so.
happening or coming out?
Yeah. I mean, we're always working on new products. Like it's like a non-stop thing here. We've got some cool stuff coming out. I mean, one thing I know we've been working together on, which is something for us is kind of cool, is this new Surge XL pedal. So it's a new alloy pedal. I think alloy pedals are making a comeback. It's just BMX is cyclical.
Yeah.
Like, but we worked together to design like a larger platform alloy sealed pedal, you know, with some inspiration from the mountain bike world. And you've been riding those. A lot of people have been riding them and they're pretty stoked on. That's been kind of cool. Like, you know, vast majority of BMX pedals are plastic now, but we wanted to do something that would get trail riders hyped, or people that just prefer having a super grippy alloy pedal. So you'll be seeing a lot more of that soon.
Yeah,
that's
cool. That's very cool. I get asked about those all the time, eh?
Yeah, it's a super cool looking product, and like, you know, we took you know, you really helped a lot with feedback for that one, and it's just a super good looking pedal. I mean, it's not going to be as cheap as a plastic pedal, but you're going to get something super dialed.
Yeah.
That thing just looks rad, and it's one of the biggest alloy CNC pedals ever made. Like I really did research about the platform area. Is huge.
Dude, that's sick.
It's a really dependable, durable axle bushing system.
Yeah.
That's a product that we're really hyped on. Yeah, we have new products coming all the time, depending where you are in the world. The new the XL line, which is dropped with the vapor tires and the disc brakes hubs and the XL sprockets. That's been pretty cool for us to do something a little bit different product wise. I think all the new P&As kind of landing worldwide. We have a whole bunch of projects I probably can't talk about right now.
Yeah, that's all right.
If people kind of subscribe to our Instagram, like it's normally me posting on there. The product stuff anyway. We kind of post a few sneak peeks every now and again. I think that's important as a brand. That's what kind of got me where I was, being hyped on seeing sneak peeks on websites. So I think we always like to tease a little bit every now and again, just to kind of show people that we're hard at work here, working on some new stuff. What else? A good question. There's plenty.
Dude,
There's too much to talk about.
I mean, far out. Like you said,
this is cool. This is like a cloud.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so one compound's going to be harder for rails, and one side's going to be softer for ledges, where you need a bit of a softer compound. And
no way.
That's pretty cool. Simple product.
That's sick.
But yeah, that's one thing that just happens to be on my desk. There's a bunch of things on the camera, but
no doubt.
Yeah, we're always working on various different things, whether it's new bikes, new parts, and we have a lot of stuff going on. But
yeah, man.
But yeah, there's plenty of good stuff to come, basically.
Yeah. I feel like you always, every time we talk, you're talking about doing new stuff. So I can't criticize you for you. Definitely hard worker, man. So
man, everyone's a hard worker here. I can't.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, but yeah, everyone here works really hard to make cool stuff, and we've got a fantastic team of really good people here, and you know, we're very fortunate to have some really creative, good people around that always bring a different opinion, and I think it helps just make cool products. You know, there's a lot of really rad people here.
For sure, man. I really appreciate everything that you do, and I don't think that, I mean, we could talk for hours about specifics on particular parts, but I feel like you know, the amount of stuff that you guys do behind the scenes, we make things in general, I think is something that you all should be very proud of, because I even someone who's worked in the BMX industry now for, you know, whatever, 16 years or something. Like it's, I was just scratching the surface on seeing what people do like yourself. So I'll definitely sing your praises, but I look forward to being able to talk with you more about stuff in the future. And
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
down.
yeah,
Down.
for sure,
Sounds
man.
sounds good. Like it's yeah, it's always good having a chat with you. Normally
Yeah,
it's like super late my time and you're feeding your kid early in the morning or something.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
nice to do this sitting down. But no, it's
No,
great to have a chat. Thanks for
it's
having
cool,
me on.
man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, man. Yeah, look forward to the next time.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
Awesome, man.
Yeah. Take it easy.
Hell yeah.
See you
Thanks,
soon.
dude.